I'm gonna let Amy in here. And just because I keep getting the files mixed up, I'm going to announce that today is Monday, April 20th. And this is our your chance to ask questions about the TA. So Lisa, do you have any to start with that have come in?
I'll let Kirk start since he's got his up, and I will pull mine up.
Okay.
Oh, gee, sorry. I just put on mute. Let me pull it up. Interpretation of receiving our pay increase in January. If you could discuss the September to December portion of the differential that is being held back until May.
Okay, so
there's some confusion out there. I've seen it on Facebook as well. People are not quite understanding that one, and I did get a call last night regarding that. So
okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so basically the way it's going to work is when September 1st comes around, your paychecks are going to look the same. They're going to have your current pay rate, but they're going to add up how many credit hours you had in that time, and then in May they're going to pay you 4.75% additional. So you will get it. It's just deferred. Does that make sense?
As well as your longevity pay if you are over 25 years. So
Right.
The longevity pay and your pay increase that you would see in this TA will be computed and paid retroactively to you in that May paycheck. You will see your pay increase starting in January. So
Correct.
It will officially be paid to you directly starting in January. And those were two components. We've never had retro pay before that I know of. It's always been something that, with the concessionary TA, we didn't build in that we were going to get something back. So this is something that, along with understanding the economic situation that the company is in, we built in something coming back to flight attendants making that effort to delay that pay to January. We felt like if we were going to make the effort to help the company, that we needed them to equally do something at the end of that to make sure that they recognize that flight attendants did that. So it was important to get something paid back.
All right. Do you have any questions, Lisa?
Yes. So the first one, with the new reserve system next year, you're only allowed to pick up trips matching the number of days of your block. For example, can't pick up a 2-day trip when you have a 3-day block. What if you have a 5 or 6 day block? Are you just out of luck for picking up from open time then? Or are you allowed to pick up a 4-day trip for the first section of the block?
If you have a 5 or 6 day block, you can only pick up airport standby period, or you can wait and be assigned a trip.
Kimberly, what if you're in day 3 of a 5-day block? Could you then
you're considered to have 3 days of availability.
Okay, so then I could pick up something that was 3 days.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's see what else I have. I don't think we have many questions coming in through our little box, but I'm going to look.
Jamie has her hand up. Jamie, you got something?
Yeah, just on that same note of reserves. So if you have a 5-day block, that means that reserve is now going to be, or airport how would somebody pick up an airport reserve if it's not an open time, or is it going to be an open time?
It will be an open time.
Very nice. Okay. Thank you.
I do not have any more questions, so it's just going to be what people here have with us today.
Sorry, Elena has a question.
Okay.
She texted me and she goes, are Alaska mainline flight attendants being paid on company leaves like CLOAs? It's not has to do with the TA, but as a whole question.
No, they are not.
Perfect.
I mean, they are if they're doing like the same as you guys, the COVID leave, or the, your kids are home sick, you can use your sicker vacation, but they're not getting any pay now. Not for company leave, just health insurance, just like you guys.
You know, to take that a step further, the Alaska flight attendants do not have part-time lines. We have part-time lines at Horizon. And so we were able to increase to as many as wanted part-time lines, and they were doing some reduced credit lines. So equally, we're in the, they're called different things, but we're also mapping that very closely as well. The other thing I will say is that voluntary quarantine leave of absence that we had that was unpaid to start, it is now the same as the others. You may take your vacation or sick time to have that as a paid leave as well. And they will retroactively go back if you were to desire to have that done. So that is paid as well. So we're really tied very closely to each other. There are no differences from those leaves standpoint.
I just want to make a clarification. Alaska does have the reduced credit, which is the same as a part-time line, but in their contract, it's not mandatory. So it hasn't been offered in years, but now it will be being offered because they need it.
Yep.
Guy Ucker has a question. You need to unmute yourself, Guy. Or I can unmute you probably. All right, Guy, go ahead.
Hi, got a question on the reserve, and okay, so there's still, okay, so the airport reserve position is still going to be there, but you bid for reserve, and then when you go to like your IMD to bid for your preferences, I'm just trying to make this sound correctly out of my mouth here. When you bid for preferences, you could bid for just airport reserve, correct?
Today, not in the new system, no. Well, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, are you talking about preferences like fly first or fly last? Or are you talking about preferences like AM or PM? I'm not sure how this works for you guys.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: they're not going to have airport reserves, period. So they won't have any airport reserves on the airport on this next contract. That won't be doing that at all.
No, there will be airport reserve. But instead of it being a line, it'll be an assignment, just like a trip. So it can be assigned to any reserve, or you can pick it up if you're self-assigning. So it's just for a day. You'd only do it like a couple times a month. I think it's 4 times a month max.
Okay, so there's the answer to my question. So you could pick it up in eCrew, right? But you could only do it like 4 times a month, correct?
I think it can only, let me double check that. I think they can only assign it to you 4 times a month. It doesn't mean that maybe you, let me check if you can do it 4 times more than that. Okay, it says a reserve may be assigned excluding self-assignment to no more than 4 times. So you can pick it up as much as you want if it's available. But you can really only pick it up if you are a 1 day, a 5 day, or a 6 day reserve. Because otherwise it's not matching your days of availability, right?
Okay, so you would be able to pick that up in eCrew then?
If you're self-assigning, yeah.
Okay, and that's the only way to pick it up is it's in eCrew, correct?
Well, you can pick it up, but if they're still sitting in there, or if the company needs more of them because they end up using them faster, they can make that an assignment and assign it to a reserve too. So it's just like think of it just like a trip, but instead of going anywhere, you go to the airport.
Okay, but it would all be, but I just want to make sure I'm crystal clear on this. It's all going to be in eCrew, correct? It's not going to be like on our IMD, like how we do preferences now, correct? Am I?
Okay, I'm not at that level where I know what's on your IMD, so I'm going to let one of our other people, Lisa, I don't know what he means when he said it's a preference. Do you mean for bidding?
Yeah, when you bid for reserve, you bid for reserve now with days off, and then when you want like AM or PM, you go to your IMD.
Oh yeah, no, it will not be there anymore.
Okay, so it's all going to be on eCrew.
Is that open time? Yeah.
Okay, that's the answer to my question. Then my next reserve question is, So if you're bidding for reserve, okay,
Uh-huh.
and you bid for days off, you're still gonna go to your IMD under complete or whatever, comply, and bid for like AM and PM reserve. Is that still gonna stay
Yes.
the same?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yep. That's what I need to know. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. All right, anyone else? Heidi Farrell has a question. Let me unmute you here. Go ahead, Heidi.
Hi, thanks. My question is regard to pay rates.
Okay.
Specifically for the 25-year flight attendant, is it the $1 raise at the 25th when you're starting your 25th year?
Is after completing 25 years. So I guess it'd be your 26th, really.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We've got lots of people in here. I'm hopeful that we have lots of new questions coming up.
We'll keep hoping.
I have a question.
Okay, Allison.
Hi. Sorry, I'm late. Technical difficulties this morning. I don't know if this has already been covered because I just joined, but I was wondering about the short-term disability. How is that time accrued, or is that just given to us that we get 40%?
It's going to be more like your long-term plan where it doesn't. I mean, you just have to qualify for it. It's not time you have to accrue. It's an actual insurance plan like long-term disability is today.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Brian has a question. Brian Griswold. Sorry.
Hey, thanks. Can you walk me through with reserves and the reasoning that we moved away from scheduling, notifying before the last leg to mandatory flight attendants checking e-crew for any further assignments?
It wasn't necessarily a decision that was made. It was just part of taking the Alaska Reserve system, and that's what they do.
Gotcha. I mean, I just see that, as incremental wins that we had for reserves, and I'm not sure that's necessarily a win for reserves moving down, that, we have to check the e-crew. But no, I appreciate you talking to that
No,
a
I
little
mean,
bit. Thank you.
I think there's definitely some downsides to the new reserve system as well as upsides. So yeah, we don't dispute that at all. It's a whole new philosophy, basically. Joanne, you have a question?
Excuse me. Several of my friends have reached out to say that they've not received a ballot yet. So at what point should they get nervous? And again, give me the information on what they do.
Okay, so the ballots went out, mailed on the 16th. And I don't actually know, our office is in DC, but the printer's in Chicago. So I don't know if they went from Chicago or from DC. They used to come from Maryland, so I really don't know. But if they don't get them by tomorrow, I'd probably make a call.
Call where?
Lisa, do you have that information? Call our DC office.
Let me grab it.
I have it right here if you guys want. It's 1-800-424-2401. It says press 1 and then extension 706. And it's Eastern time, 9:30 to 5.
Okay, one more time. 1-800-424-2401. Press 1 and then 706.
Yes. And the one big thing they say here is leave a message, because I think it's only one person that's working there. And then they're checking the messages frequently. So just
they're working from home just because.
Yeah, just so everyone. Yep, they're all working remotely. It's Bob and Corey, and they will be checking that line regularly every day. They will return your call or email. So you're going to watch, if they call you, it's going to be a 202 number, or it could be a random number. So just make sure that you're answering those calls so that you get them. It doesn't go into voicemail and you play voicemail tag back and forth with each other. So check your phone regularly for that call to come in or for that email to come in with that new code.
Okay, and looks like we have another question from Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
So looking at the addition of the self-assigned section. I'm sure this will be covered under the implementation schedule. I'm concerned that we've had long call, I think at least 2 contracts, and that was never implemented. Are we going to take a
Okay,
look
so
at self-assign? I realize they're different, Kimberly, but I mean, it's just, I never saw that assigned.
no, you're right. So long call was never mandatory. It was something the company could do as an option. Self-assignment is not an option. They have to make it work.
And are we going to have protections around that? If, I mean, I knowing eCrew and our track record with eCrew, I don't expect an easy implementation with that. Again, that's my
So
two
on the
cents.
reserve section, it specifically says that AFA and the company basically have to agree that it's ready to go before it can be rolled out.
And it will be tested. So we will be testing equally. There will be an implementation committee, and all of those programming pieces will be tested by both the company and AFA.
So, I mean, do we have a timeline associated with that, or is it just going to be kind of open-ended until it's ready? That's, I guess, my bigger concern, just knowing the eCrew history.
Yeah, so the target date is April 1st. They would obviously like to get that done sooner, but I think the issue too is not just that Ames is a little backed up or slow or whatever, but they also don't want to necessarily start spending too much money on contractors right now. They're trying to conserve the cash. So they think that April is feasible, and that's being pessimistic. So maybe even before that, but we'll believe it when we see it.
No, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So to back up just a bit here, Kimberly, if you could fill people in on the improvements to reserve, that pay component, I think that would be great for people to know.
Okay, well, I mean, there's a number of potential improvements to reserve depending on how you look at it, but the big one that the reserves are going to see right off the bat is every block hour that they fly as a reserve assignment is paid an extra $2.50. So that should help some of the sting with this.
And they also will be getting more in their min guarantee, right? And some additional.
Oh yeah, right. So they will also, their guarantee will increase to 75 hours, and they'll get an extra day off. So they'll be working actually 1 day less for 3 more hours pay, 3 or 4 more hours of pay. So.
Yeah, so, you know, the company, when they came in, their team brought in the reserve section. They had taken the Alaska system and stripped out any improvements to it that Alaska had built into theirs. So all they brought were the productivity gains that they would be seeing in reserve. And we were an adamant no, and we went back and incorporated the entire Alaska reserve section and started from there, and then whittled back and forth to get the improvements that we do have in it with the gains that the company believes that they're getting. So we really do feel pretty strongly that those improvements to reserve are going to be something that are really a very good thing for our reserves. And I think as we see, well, at the time that we were doing this, COVID had not happened, and we had a very large number of people that were coming in onto reserve. They were not going to know any other system. So now we're in an environment that's not the case. We're seeing in Portland, we're seeing 13-year flight attendants that are going to be on reserve. So it will be a big change. But we did check in with Alaska, and we're really good about checking in with their MEC and their flight attendants and finding out how they feel about those components. And although there's no perfect system and there's no perfect contract, and certainly they, have things that they would like to see, they were very positive that the things that we were able to build in were very good components of that system that they have. So we feel good about that.
Okay, Brian, you have another question?
Is this similar to, I'm assuming just, we're adopting the AS section. I saw the 5 minutes to return a notification call. I have some concerns with that, just, with our crew room, and some technology. That 10-minute was a more comfortable buffer for me, for any potential missed signal. But was just wondering if that was just another clean adopt from the Alaska side.
Yeah, that is what it is.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Guy, you have a question? Go ahead.
Okay, going back to what Brian said, I know in the Portland Village, the cell signal is like weak. It's like down to 1 bar. And when I was doing airport reserve last bid, I thought, geez, I could miss a call and get unable contact on my line. So I'm just wondering, I don't know if it's in the contract, but does crew scheduling, if they can't get a hold of you on your cell phone, do they try and call the village to try and get a hold of you?
Does any of our AFA people know that? I don't know the answer to that.
Guy, I actually have
so.
looked down there, but I didn't see that they have phones down there. I'm sure that they do. I just didn't notice them. And yes, that same system would apply. I know that they are going to be working on that Wi-Fi coverage and that and getting a booster down in the Portland crew room, because Alaska equally has had some issues. Thankfully, knock on for Mike or whatever I have here on my desk, thankfully, we have not had any reports where someone missed a call because their signal was not working. But I know they are working on a booster just to make sure that people do have that comfort that it's going to work. So I think that's important. You're absolutely correct. And when we're working on the implementation of reserve and we're doing the testing, Guy, I've made a note and I will make sure that that is one of the things that we make sure is in there and that we cover off on. So I've made a note of that one, and that will stay with our implementation committee when they're working on that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up, because I may have forgotten that piece, so I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
I have a question, please.
Okay. I have you listed as owner.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm having technical difficulties today. It's Allison.
Okay.
All right. Could we go over the ground holding pay? I made a lot of notes here, and it says ground holding pay at $15 an hour above the trip value and above guarantee for time over 30 minutes. I think I'm confused over the above trip value and above guarantee, and then it says only counts time that would not be block time. Example, before block out or after block in.
Right. So
and that statement confuses me. Sorry.
We tried to write it as clearly as possible, but we knew it still was like, you have to think it through kind of. So basically above the trip value. So say you have a time away from base driven trip that's worth 20 and you do 45 minutes of ground holding, right? So they could take the position, and we didn't want them to, that 45 minutes is already included in your trip rig, right? Because you're already getting paid. So you get the trip rig plus the extra 15 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other piece, what they're saying, what we're trying to say is if you have blocked out or you have not blocked in, you're getting block pay. So you wouldn't also get ground holding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all it means. So it's only like if there's maintenance and you're sitting at the gate with the door open or whatever, the brake hasn't released depending on what aircraft you're on.
Okay, I'm also getting friends who are still holding out for that boarding pay. Can we iterate that nobody has boarding pay, even Alaska?
No, I don't know where that rumor started, because they absolutely do not have boarding pay. In fact, even though I knew the answer when I was up there a few weeks ago, I asked them and they all looked at me like, man, that'd be awesome, but no.
That rumor is still going around, so I just wanted to touch on that too. Thank you.
Nobody has it. It makes sense, but nobody does.
Thank you.
Sure. Brian again?
Hey, thank you. Sorry, I've got a long list of questions here. I appreciate you being a resource and able to answer them. Can you cover some of the applicability of the time and a half pay if you pick up a trip and it goes over? I think my concern is if I were to pick up a day trip, but a 2-day goes out for premium pay. Am I understanding that correctly? I would not get the premium pay for that?
I think you're referring to the section that says that if you pick up a trip and the exact days are later offered at premium, you'll get premium. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I am.
That is, okay, yeah. So It has to be day for day and it has to be the same days.
But Kimberly, that's actually a good question. If you pick up a day trip and they offer premium pay for a 2-day trip, one of those days being the same as your day trip.
Yeah, but you don't get it. Because the idea being they might not have offered premium pay on a 1-day trip, right? You don't know what they were trying to cover. It could be the second day of the trip that's the problem.
Got it. Nope, you're right. Okay.
Yeah. No, we actually talked about this. And again, it was one of those things where we're like, well, it's not perfect, but it is more than we have today.
No, it definitely is more than what we
Yeah.
have today, but I mean, it doesn't incentivize me either to pick up a day trip, you know, if they're offering the 2-day, but I appreciate you walking me through that.
Right. See what else we have here. Anyone? Do you want me just to randomly call on you people? You like law
Can do
school?
that.
Yeah. Let's see. No, that would be mean.
Oh, Joanne has one.
Okay, and then Brian has a question as well. Go ahead, Joanne.
Okay, so I want to clarify this. I think I know the answer, but the change where we get paid for the deadhead when we drop it,
Uh-huh.
does confirm for me that we do keep the original rig even though we drop that deadhead.
Right, it doesn't convert to block. You don't have any loss of pay.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yep. Brian?
I want to say awesome that, you know, we were able to get that forgoing of parking, and that it was just under $40. You know, that's definitely a huge win. Was the current program offered considered? If I'm looking at the current program for Seattle employees, if you forgo parking, you can get, now granted it's not directly into the paycheck, but you can get into a WageWorks account $75. So I mean, it's just that's something offered right now through. It doesn't have the portability that the direct deposit does, but I mean, it's more compensation potentially.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Does anyone know about that? Sorry, I don't know. I really honestly don't know what that is that you're talking about.
Well, and let me make it clear, I do appreciate that, you know, we were able to get that because
Oh, no,
that
I
is a big
know.
win. You
Yeah.
know, I'm just looking at, and I want to make sure I clarify, yeah, this is outside the contract, but you know, they're offering $75 right now, not a system average.
Brian,
And where does that money go?
It's a WageWorks account. Lisa, do you want me to send you a link?
no, you don't need to. No, that's fine. You're talking about a system they have at Alaska?
No, this is offered to Horizon employees right now. If I were to turn in my parking badge, I can get $75 to free and clear to a WageWorks account.
But do you have to use it on public transportation though?
No, it's not.
Yes.
It's moved off the Orca
Yep.
card, and it's a WageWorks account now,
Yeah.
so it's different.
Well, obviously, since I don't know what you're talking about, I don't know whether that is both or not.
It's
Sorry.
yeah, I don't either. It's, if you were to give up your parking pass, you would be entitled to the $36 per month. With the WageWorks things, I don't know the answer. It's a company benefit, so you'd have to reach out to HR and see how that plays in.
No, thank you. I was just wondering if that was considered when we were trying to find that system average with the cost in Seattle.
No, they just took the average of what it costs at all the domiciles and then divided it by 5.
My understanding is the WageWorks is a public transportation benefit. They used to give us just a little sticker to put on and we could use public transportation. And I know in Portland we could use, I think it's called the Max or TriMet or something like that.
Lisa, you live there. Of course it's the Max. Oh my God.
I don't remember if San Francisco's Max or TriMet. I get both of them confused.
It's the BART. It's the BART.
So anyway, that was the benefit that we had for public transportation use. So if you wanted to bypass having parking, you could have your public transportation subsidized. It used to pay the whole thing, and now it's whittled away to just a $75 benefit, you're saying. I mean, I haven't even watched how they've whittled away at that program over the years. But
So that was an increase from what it used to be, because I did forgo parking for a time being when my car was down. I would only get $60 to an Orca card directly. Now it's 75, but again, it's through a WageWorks account, so it's different than the Orca card here in
Right.
Seattle.
And I remember they used to pay the full monthly fee for the passes, so it's good that they've increased it by $15. That's great to see.
Hey, if I could tag on for one more question here in regards to commuting.
Yeah. And
Although
then
I don't
has one after that.
Although I don't commute anymore, I do like to visit the family around the system. And so what I'm seeing now is commuting needs to be tied to my permanent address, where in today's system, I can temporarily move it if I'm visiting family or friends. Can you speak to that? Why was it tied to that permanent address? I see that as a potential loss to the system.
Because that is the intent of commuting. I mean, it is intending to get you from home to work, not to your,
Vacation.
Yeah, it just is.
It's a happy loophole that we have right now. No, that's fair enough. I see that as a move down, but I appreciate you talking to them.
And actually, it's an increase in our commuter benefit to have this new designation to be able to have the W-5 code. So I want to make sure that we talk about that. That is an added benefit. It's a stepping stone to more. And we fought extremely hard to be able to get any piece of a commuter benefit in. It was the very last thing that we were able to agree on. So that's important to note.
Pam Powell, our Sunflower, has a question.
I'm not sure if it's a question or a statement or what, but Brian's question about the transportation and the credit, I forgot what it was called. WageWorks?
Well, WageWorks is the company that manages the benefits, I guess, but.
That's a Seattle only thing though, isn't it? Where the $36 per month for parking is any base?
All right, Terry's saying, well, Terry's saying no. I legit, I've never heard of this until this phone call, so I really don't. We can find out. We can find out by tomorrow.
It's available to anyone who has a public transportation system.
Okay.
So yeah, it is across the board.
Okay. All right. That was it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Natasha has a question.
Hey, I was just going to what Brian was saying. It's important that the commuter city is the accurate one in PeopleSoft, because, at the time that they run that 15%, if someone had just added in Palm Springs from their vacation, that could knock a real commuter off. Like, people need to not cheat and adjust their address just so they can get that commuting benefit. Or like, I guess they have to be morally, do you know what I mean?
Well, they're not going to want to cheat it because that's the state that's used for your taxes too. Like, so if you don't live in California, you're not going to want to pay California income tax, right?
Well, no, what if you change it? So what if I feel like there are some people that have their commuter city, in parentheses
Right.
next to their name and e-crew, but they don't commute. They might have a summer home there, or they were on vacation one time, or, even if it's within the same state, and they're not a real commuter. So I don't know, it's a gray area if you have that listed, but you actually don't live there or fly out of there. You just have it as a backup. And that's a problem. You can still commute, of course, but it's unfortunate if they take one of the 15% only person's spot when they don't regularly commute.
Well, I mean, to some extent, I suppose you'd have to say that's an honor system, but if you're abusing the system, you may get caught and you may get in trouble, including being terminated, really, because that is fraud. I'm not saying that we wouldn't defend you and that we don't want that to happen, but that is a concern.
Like some people, they go to Hawaii once a year, they live in Seattle, no big deal. So they put Honolulu, and do you know what I mean?
No, they're probably not going to be able to do that anymore.
Or I guess it's just, if this contract is ratified, we'll have advance notice to adjust or, remove unused commuter codes?
Yes,
Okay.
there will be yes, part of this will be making sure that everyone understands how that will be used going forward, the implications of it, and making sure that, we have commuters in Alaska and there's no Horizon flight that comes from Alaska. So they wouldn't need to utilize that commuter code because they're on another metal. This is on Horizon metal.
Yeah,
So
that's a great point. So I guess when they do the 15%, they'll go through the line and weed out the ones that it can apply to.
well, I don't know that the company's going to weed it out, but
Yeah, we may need to step in there. We may
Because,
have,
and I also see like a lot of people that says Portland is their commuter city, but now they're based in Portland and it hasn't been removed, that type of thing. And we wouldn't want the seniority report to get run and then assigned, but that doesn't even apply to you anymore.
no, we'll have a process to make sure it's correct, and we can, it'll be posted. People will know who's on it and if it's right or not. So.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
thank you, Natasha.
All right, Joanne.
So speaking to Natasha's question, that whole thing concerns me too, but it didn't dawn on me that they, of course they would have to pay the state tax for that commuter city or whatever too. And that's going to make people be honest that might not be or whatever. But I think that that will correct itself because, people will be fighting for those positions if there's only 15%, and people will rat on each other. So, I don't think we have to worry about it. But my question about the commuter policy is, let's say, I'm just devil's advocate here, so I can understand it. But let's say I decide to change to Payne Field as a commuter city. I decide to change to Payne Field and commute from Payne.
To where?
From
to Portland?
To Portland, say, and because I live in Longview. So,
okay.
So let's say I changed, just say Seattle or Payne or whatever. And I do this, down the road, and that 15% is already filled up. There's already 15% of the people using that W5. And where would, is based on the language of the contract, it tells me that you get put on a list or something, but it is by seniority. So
okay,
my seniority level, would I be going to that point on the list? In seniority order of who chooses the next spot?
Okay, so first things first, if you live in Longview, Portland has to be your commuter city. So you're not a commuter because that's the airport closest to your residence, right?
No, but I'm saying if I change bases, that's what my point is. I would consider possibly changing bases back to Seattle and fly out of Payne at some day because there's not enough flights out of Portland. That's, this is just a scenario.
So it would be, okay, so once you establish yourself as registered commuter, you're not going to take that status away from somebody, even if you're senior to them.
Right. Right. I understand that.
But you would be the next, but assuming that you were the most senior person on the waiting list, you'd be the first one to get it if through attrition or whatever reason.
Okay. That was my question. So I would go in seniority order on that list and take the next slot if there was nobody in seniority above me wanting that slot.
Correct.
If somebody leaves through attrition or whatever. Okay, got it.
All right, Jamie.
I just want to confirm my understanding or my misunderstanding. That 15%, you can still be a commuter, not be that 15%, just not use the commuter code, correct?
Right,
Yes.
You can be a commuter. You still have to register though, so that is a change. So you still have to designate your permanent resident city. But yes, the 15% is only to get the higher boarding priority, not to use the policy itself.
Okay, because like I have Seattle because my family all lives in Seattle, and sometimes I leave my car in Seattle and fly down. So I don't have to be part of the W5, but I can still keep that in there if I register, but I won't be the 15%.
But you have to register Seattle as your, are you Portland based? As your,
yes.
As your commuter, but you'd have to figure out a way to I mean, what is, you can only register for the city that's in PeopleSoft, right? So.
Okay. Interesting.
So what you're saying is if you don't live in that city, you can't be a registered commuter anymore because your family lives in Seattle. I mean, you know, or your whatever, your boyfriend lives in Seattle or whatever the deal is. It has to be your primary residence to register for Seattle as your commuter city now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Brian?
Hey, thank you. Going back to reserve, were we able to benchmark with Alaska any potential fatigue problems for, let's say, being on ER and then assigned a 12-hour day? That could be fairly long. So I have some interest in that.
They have not had issues with it.
Do we know how often that occurs? That we're looking at.
It occurs rarely. It occurs very rarely, and it would occur even less for you guys because you don't have middle of the night flying, right? Like they can get called out at midnight to a 2 a.m. flight to Anchorage. You guys are not going to have that.
Well, I mean, once the flying goes back up, I can't count how many multiple saves, Kimberly. Like I've been cold called in my bed to save a delayed Victoria flight at 11 or midnight because they know I live fairly close. So
they better be calling you not because of that, but because you're next on the order of assignment. Or do you mean for Blue Fly?
I had a will fly.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, at the same end, I mean, I do see perfect world when we go back. We do have a later bank that may not necessarily be like a term that they have, but I see a potential bank. So I'm just kind of curious. I know we have fatigue language, but just kind of curious if we can benchmark. So it sounds like it rarely happens, and we don't have much of an issue.
And we do have
you're only going to be extended reserve twice a month, also, if that helps, at the most. So, Lisa, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying we do have the fatigue policy. So we have the fatigue policy, and we also have the protection that they can only assign you to that type of reserve a limited number of times.
So speaking about the fatigue policy, Lisa, was there any option to try to reduce some of those questions in that status list instead of having to copy and paste from some of those pilot questions that people are asked?
No, we did not discuss it.
The current fatigue language is a lot of copy and paste from the pilots. A lot of pilot asked questions about, did you bid for this? What were you doing? Was there any option to potentially reduce that? But it sounds like that wasn't discussed.
Well, we have the new program in play as well. So there's more provisions in the new fatigue risk program. So.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have someone named Hagen. Hello, Hagen.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm a relatively new reserve, and my question is, as far as the commuter policy is concerned, is the 15% going to be given to line holders primarily, and will reserves not be able to have that designation for commuting?
It's solely based on seniority, so it really depends on whether the commuters are and their seniority and how deep into seniority reserve goes. So it's possible, but the more junior you are, the less likely it is you'll have it. You would just have the regular commuter policy like you do today.
Right. You'd be using the current policy that you're using now.
Right. It's been difficult to try and get home only because of the lack of flying and the lack of airlines that have been available to us.
Absolutely. And we're hopeful that this will start to improve that. So.
Sure.
Well, and we are having a new agreement that all the carriers will be part of the commuter policy, right, Lisa?
Yes. Actually, thank you for reminding me of that.
Yes,
I remember sure that that's posted.
Yep, I remember reading it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Anybody else? Joanne?
Me again. So I'm working in the background with Kevin Robbins, and he's about ready to post that YouTube video with the webinar and he's going to text me when he has it done. So if anybody's waiting for that, that's not, or has a friend that's not Zoom friendly and they're trying to spread the word, that's forthcoming.
It's already up, isn't it?
Nope.
One of them is the wrong type of file, Kimberly. We'll talk offline. He's sending.
I couldn't find it at all, so I don't know. And then I texted Kevin and he said that he was working on it right now and he's just about to post it. So I don't know.
Okay, well, I still have one that I just converted from Saturday. I just converted before I got on this call, so I haven't even sent it to you, Lisa. So that might be the right format.
Perfect.
So
thank you.
All right, Brian.
Thank you. Sorry, I told you I put a long list here. I'm looking at Article 25B for grooming specifically. I didn't see any call out for the E protection. I know that's for the Q400 grooming duties.
I can't hear you, Brian. I don't know if you're in the airport or what, but I.
No. Guy Ocker needs to be muted.
Oh, it's Guy? Okay. It says he is muted. I can't.
Are you able to hear me now? Is that any better?
Are you sure that's Guy? Because it says he's muted.
It doesn't have a mute one on mine, and I feel like I hear him talking on the phone.
He doesn't on the sidebar, but he does on the screen.
Sure. Let me turn my video, see if I can access better. Just a second. Any better?
That's much better.
Okay, sorry, I just took my headset off.
I don't know what that is, but all right, go ahead. 25 what?
25 Bravo for grooming duties. I didn't see any protections firmed in for the Embraer, just about general grooming duties. We had that expectation for us to groom on the Q, but I'm just wondering about.
We don't groom on the E, so.
So I'm wondering, should that have been included? I'm just concerned that I didn't see Q400 only, if that makes sense. I'm concerned that,
That was already negotiated, so they covered off on that when the E came out.
Yeah, that's
okay. So there will be no more.
There's no change in that.
So okay, then
the practice should continue.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, just scrolling here.
The grooming is just tidying.
Right.
And that's what's on the queue.
Anybody else?
Are there any Facebook posts that you guys have seen that we should answer in the session today? Anything that you've seen being posted on Facebook that we should talk about?
I have a question, but not about any of that, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Okay, so my question is, if you fly into vacation, you get paid 3 hours. I wasn't sure if that started at midnight. Is that additional 3 hours to the 4 that you get, or how does that work?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I wrote in my notes, if you fly into vacation for operational needs, you get paid 3 hours a day, but I don't think that that's correct. Does that mean after midnight, or is that in addition to the 4 hours you'd get if you were to fly into your vacation? Normally, our minimum guarantee would be 4 hours a day. So I'm trying to decide where I got this in my notes about the 3 hours a day if we fly into our vacation.
You get in addition.
Okay.
In addition, okay.
Well, you only get the 4 though if you fly past 2 hours, right? And then this would be midnight.
Okay, thank you. That clears it up.
Okay. Jamie Moore.
Hey, I am getting a text message from Elena, whose microphone doesn't work.
Okay.
She wants to know, why does she have to give up her seats on her vacation with her friends and families for commuters? So she can't get home. Portland and Seattle is as tough as it is. So that she apparently opposes the commuter policy and wants to know why the change was made.
I don't know how often it would impact that Medford flight from Portland to Medford. So Can she give us an example? Because again, it's only on Horizon Metal. So she won't be bumped off of a Hawaii flight. She won't be bumped off of, a
No, but she needs
mainline.
to get to Portland to get that Hawaii flight though, right? I think is what she's saying.
That is exactly what
Right.
she's saying.
She's already at the top of the well,
The W5 will bump her.
It would.
we talked about the smaller bases and the lower impact to the smaller bases of that happening, but that is correct.
So, as to why, I think that it's one of those things where it's like, what we're trying to balance the flight attendants and we knew that some people would be opposed to it. Our feeling was that more people would be in favor of it. And that was something that, especially Frost's flight attendants, when a brand new pilot gets on with his boarding priority, because he's a commuter over, a 30-year flight attendant. So we wanted to at least give them that for commuting.
We have a lot of people that are displaced right now from where they were trying to be. And we wanted to make sure that we lessen the impact to those individuals who are being forced away from their base and having to commute. And it was happening more and more and more at that time when we were doing this. And we keep getting asked why we don't have the same policy as the pilots. Why don't we have the same policy as the pilots? And we have to represent the majority of flight attendants in what that request is.
Okay, next. Any other texts or emails, guys?
There's got to be more going on. We have to have more questions. This would be a short session.
That's okay. All right. I'm going to count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5. Anyone?
Joanne, and then before we go, I'm going to see if Kirk and Joelle have any closing statements as well.
All right, go ahead, Joanne.
So give me a minute to review. I'm going to review. I have screenshots of the webinar. So you guys go through with your thing, and I'm going to look and see if there's anything else. I don't want to give up on this yet.
Well, we will be back here tomorrow at the same time.
Okay.
Joanne, Kimberly and I are going to work with Kevin after this call on the webinar post. So as soon as we connect from this, we'll be working on making sure that everything is up there with Kevin.
All right. Jolene has a question. Go ahead, Jolene.
I was signed in a little bit late. I apologize. But could you go over when the pay starts and the pay chart as to, it's confusing for people. It says starting May 2020, and then you read somewhere else it says December.
Yeah, that's a typo. So it actually starts in September. And the amount, the increase, the 4.75%, or I think you're probably senior enough you get the extra dollar as well, will start in September, but that percentage will be kind of banked and paid out in May, and then in January you'll actually start seeing it in your check to check.
So it's in January that you'll start seeing the pay. I just want to clarify this. You'll start seeing it in January. What was the blurb about not starting it until May 21? That's another confusing portion.
So you'll start seeing it in your check in January, but the increase starts kind of on paper in September, and then all the amount of the increase from September to the end of the year will be paid out in a lump sum in May.
In May, okay. And then the January will start the actual payout.
Right.
You got it.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
Perfectly. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's totally confusing and it's totally annoying, but honestly, we kind of had to make some agreements just to keep them from backing out of the whole thing.
No, I get it. I just, I said, wanted to clarify.
Nope. Thank you for that.
let's open it up for Kirk and Joelle to see if they have anything they want to talk about on the call before we go.
Kirk. Hi, Kirk.
Hey.
Video.
Yeah. Amazing, huh? So I just want to encourage anyone that has any specific questions outside of this Q&A session, if they want to contact me, talk about anything whatsoever related to our contract, our current one, or this TA, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm fully available, except when I'm sleeping. My phone number is 503.
Okay, great.
503-602-9362. Sometimes people may have specific questions or not comfortable in a public forum. I'm happy to talk with those people. So
Thank you, Kirk. Joelle?
Hey there. No, I don't have anything specific to say. I mean, everyone is more than welcome to contact me as well. Thank you guys for your participation and your, I guess, your desire to want to know more and educate yourselves. And as I said yesterday and the day before, I suppose, just please just spread the word and encourage other people. If they don't, Kirk brought up a really good point. You know, if you don't want to speak in this public forum, reach out to any of us.
And we have 2 questions. So before we hang up, let's start with Heidi. Hi, Heidi. Are you
Heidi
there?
Farrell?
Heidi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm here. Hi. Can you hear me?
No, well.
Now we can.
Okay.
Heidi, do you want to text your question to Lisa or somebody, because we're having trouble hearing you?
My question is in regards to pay. Okay, can you hear me?
Heidi, you're actually breaking up really bad. I'm wondering if maybe your signal is coming in and out. If you want to, you can text me what your question is.
Okay.
Unless
can
you
you hear me better now?
No, you're coming through very garbled. But I can't. Do you have my mobile number or Kirk's? Do you have one of the officers' mobile numbers so you could text us what your question is?
She can text me.
Okay. I'll just ask.
Thanks, Heidi. Sorry. Okay, Joanne, go ahead.
Oh, no, I forgot. So I just wanted to reach out to everybody here to reach out to one of your friends or 6 of your friends today and encourage them to get information if they haven't done that already. In particular, we've got a lot of people out on leaves and they might not have their eye on the ball. And I reached out to a couple of them today and gave them information how to call in if they didn't get their ballot, and et cetera, and and so I just encourage you to go behind the scenes besides this Zoom format and reach out to your friends and get everyone to vote.
And I want to add to that, this is the first time you're not going to be able to change your vote, so make sure you know what your vote. Make sure you're sure about your vote before you cast it, because you're stuck with it.
Also, I was able to get some printed TAs into the crew rooms. So they're being co-mailed over. I dropped off 3 in Seattle. There's a co-mail in Kirk's box. So if someone goes through Portland and can grab the co-mail that has the red writing on it for the address, there are crew room copies in his box. There are copies going up to Payne. There are copies going over to Spokane and also to Boise. So those hard copies will be there as a crew room copy, and people can reference that. If we run out of any, let me know and I'll drop some more off. But I think we've got a good amount in each of the bases now that someone can grab it and take it and bring it back. when they finish their trip. So I think there's 3 or 4 in each place. Shall we do one more cruise through to see if there's any
I'm
questions?
just looking. There's nobody on page 2. I don't see anybody. Okay, so we'll be back here same time, 12:30 tomorrow. And like Joanne said, and Lisa reiterated, please tell other people. There's no dumb questions. There's no questions that are going to hurt our feelings or anything like that. So please ask them. And again, if you're shy, you can just text it or email it to one of us and we can read it out loud.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if you're not comfortable talking live with us, we're happy to take those through email. Again, we have that contact button on the negotiations banner on our website where you can submit your question that way. So we're happy to take them in any way that you are able to get those to us. And just like Kimberly said, there's no question that's a dumb question or a stupid question or a silly question, or you're not going to upset us by asking something confrontational. If you're really upset about something, we try to keep the emotions in check, but bring those things forward and let's get them out there and talk about the reasons why we came to a certain decision as a negotiations committee. Let's bring up the ones that are difficult to talk about. Let's find out what they are and get those questions and answers out there.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
See you tomorrow.